Good to go.
Okay, so it is December the 19th, 2024 for Upper Rio Grande Flood Planning Group meeting. I'm just going to go ahead and announce our voting members to ensure that we have our quorum. So I have Carlos Velarde representing public, Gilbert Saldana representing counties, Isela Dagnino representing water utilities, Javier Acosta representing municipalities, Levi Bryan representing, I believe, now I'm going to forget. I think, Levi, you're under water districts as well, or water utilities as well.
Yes, ma'am.
That's 6. Thank you. And then we've got Philip Boyd serving as an alternate for Jeff, environment. And then we have Sal Masood as well. And Sal, remind me, what is your discipline?
Well, I would say stakeholders, being the development community and the Association of Builders.
Yeah, I have you under, I'll pull up the category just to remind myself what we have you under, and I apologize for not having that memorized. But we do have 8 voting members, and then we also have our ex officio members. So we have Elijah Casas with GLO, and I believe those will be that. I think Elijah is the only non-voting member right now, in addition to Nick Collins, our Texas Water Development Board planner. And so Dave Hall is going to chair the meeting. So I will turn it over to Dave now, if you'd like to go ahead and get started.
Okay, and I guess our start time's about 9:35, 9:36.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, welcome and call to order to the Upper Rio Grande Flood Planning Group General Meeting, Thursday, December 19th. Are there any public comments?
We did not have anyone sign up for a public comment, unless
Okay.
anybody from the floor would like to say something.
Okay. Item 3 then is review and approve the minutes for the meeting held November 21st, 2024. Any comments on the minutes? Any corrections? Can I have a motion to accept, please?
Move to approve.
Second.
So I know the second was Isela. Who was the first?
I was Gilbert.
Gilbert. Okay, thank you, Gilbert. And yes, thank you.
Okay, is there any discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 4, go ahead.
Chair, yes, Chairman Dave Hall, I just wanted to acknowledge that Letitia Osberger is representing TDEM as a non-voting member.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4, Texas Water Development Board update.
Good morning, everybody. There's not going to be anything different from last time, but I'm going to go through my little spiel. We host the second cycle contract kickoff webinar in November, going over contract details, new scope of work tasks, payment requests, and amendment guidance. Please check out the recorded webinar and slides at our website. I can put the links in the chat if y'all would like to view those. A reminder about upcoming webinars. There's a payment request webinar coming up January 9th, 2025 at 10 a.m. I believe the email was sent out this week for that itself. And then there's a chairs conference call that's to be determined. It's about lessons learned from cycle 1 and community outreach. And that is about it for me.
So Nick, when you send out the chair's conference call, can you make sure that it goes to me as the alternate too, please?
Yes. And I will get that email from Annette.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 5, AECom, provide general RFP updates, dash critical dates and required meeting dates, and there is a presentation.
Hey, thank you, Dave. Good morning, everybody. Got a couple of updates for you guys here, so if we can go on to the next slide there. Okay, so definitely these are some dates. I'm just going to go over the dates again, and the critical ones. April 1st, 2025. That's going to be our amendment is going to be due, and the ones that we're focusing on the FMSs and some of the FMPs on there. January 26th, that's another critical date. We're going to have to submit a list of FMEs to be performed by RFP due by TWDB. I know we still have some pending questions on that, and I think we'll cover it here later on. February 26, 2027, we have the draft 2028 RFP due to TWDB. And September 1st, 2029, state flood plan due to the legislature. Forecasted meetings, these are just here along the side here. I know we've had these before. We might go ahead and include some other meetings along the way in there, but this is what we've got planned for the future. Next slide there, Travis.
Just a question, Gilbert.
Oh, yeah.
And that has sent out a request for people to respond to the dates, and please give your response, send your response into her. We need to get these things scheduled on this calendar so that we can make sure people can attend, and especially for January and February, not too far in the future. So please respond.
So I think the critical ones right now that we have forecasted are the ones on the right, the first 4 meetings on there. We're already doing the first one here. We want to meet January, February. And March 13th will be our first regional plan amendment, and we just got to be ready for those meetings. And thank you, Dave, for getting that out.
This
Okay.
is the email that was sent out back on November the 22nd, or is there another one?
No, that's the one, Isela. We have 4 voting members who have confirmed their availability, and several non-voting members have confirmed. Right now, it's looking like January the 17th, but I think that's the day that you said you could not attend, Isela. It's a Friday. So if I can get the other voting members to, and I'll send it out. I'll resend it right now just so you can make sure everybody can make sure they have the link.
January the 17th, I actually can't, oh, okay, no, I see why. Yeah, I have a meeting from 10 to 12:30 that day. If we can do it in the afternoon, I'm available.
Okay, I can, so I'll send this out again, and I'll put a few more times available as well, besides the morning one, so we can see if we can do that.
Thank you.
Is
Thank
that the
you.
email you sent out, Annette, or is that the email Aaron sent out?
I believe Aaron, I think you sent it out, right, Aaron?
I believe so, yes. Yes.
Yes, Aaron sent it out.
And let's see if we can get February responded to, folks. So
Okay.
we can get those 2 months locked in. Okay, is there anything else there on item 6, Gilbert?
We'll continue on with the presentation here, Dave. So
Okay, go ahead.
next slide here, Travis. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Travis. He's going to cover the FME recommendations and the rest of the presentation from here.
Yeah, so there was some clarification offered by TWDB on what exactly these recommendations were for, and why we had to submit them and on this date. And I want to bring your attention to the column on the right, that there were pathways to getting FMEs funded, performed beforehand. There was the community doing it themselves, in which they would foot the bill for it, for developing the FME, doing the preliminary engineering, whatever you want to call it, but getting that project done. They could commit, or they could submit for a grant funding to do that preliminary engineering, or that preliminary engineering could be performed under the regional flood planning group cycle as part of the cycle. what they have done is they have added a new track to get that preliminary engineering done, and that's TWDB performing FMEs on behalf of the communities. So this is TWDB budget that has been allocated to different regions to perform FMEs, with the intent of it being for smaller communities that don't have um, not even like the engineering to perform this, but don't have the management staff to be able to oversee a project like this. Small communities that couldn't even manage a subcontractor to perform this. So this is what TWDB is offering. There are still some questions as to why TWDB is performing this instead of giving it to the region, because that is already what the regional flood planning group, has some authority to do, is to perform FMEs on behalf of other communities and to oversee that as part of the cycle. What the budget is for these, because we're going to be recommending, we as the regional flood planning group are going to be recommending to TWDB which FMEs we think they need to perform. And so being able to tailor a list of FMEs to that budget amount and that schedule amount, or that scheduling time frame to get that preliminary engineering for FMPs is going to be important to understand what kind of projects need to be recommended. There's also some confusion on how TWDB intends to staff or subcontract these projects and what the coordination with the region is going to be during this. And then what is the schedule for getting these performed? Because some of the FMPs that we have on here are going to rely on preliminary engineering getting performed before the project. And we have small communities that want to get this stuff done, and they don't want something to just sit out there and wait, hey, it's been submitted, but it's not being done yet, or it's going to be done after, a time frame they would not like to pursue. So there's still questions on what exactly this, is going to be in the future, but what it is we know that TWDB has opened up another path for getting these FMEs performed for small communities.
Travis, just a question. Is there any action that the community has to do then to initiate this, or is it all done through you as a contractor interacting with the community?
That's, I believe it's the region recommending it.
Okay,
Exactly,
understand.
Dave. And what
Go
we've
ahead.
done already is you guys have already recommended, we had already brought what we wanted to do for the First Amendment. That was voted on the first meeting, and based off of that, if we had any new stuff, we would bring it to the region to vote on. And he said, I think you have a question?
Yes, so is there going to be a match portion by the community, by the municipality? My concern is that, these are very small communities. They may not even have the funds to match a certain percentage of the grant, or is it going to be fully funded by Texas Water Development Board?
And by that, Gisela, I know we have the remaining questions here that we have submitted to Water Development Board, asking why this wasn't part of the RFP cycle, what the budget's going to be for FME. So some of those questions are still unknown, and we're waiting on TWDB to get back to us on that.
Okay.
And I don't want to put Nick on the spot, but I think, Nick, we're still pending those questions being answered. I know we've asked them, and just following up here if you have anything to add.
Yeah, so it's currently in the routing stage. I'm waiting for our executive director to respond to them and add some clarification. We've gotten most of the questions answered, but until she gives her sign off on the answers, I can't say anything. I was planning on getting it to y'all, or hopefully getting y'all out today, but it's probably hopefully get out tomorrow, because it's the holidays, so I understand everybody's trying to get these answers before then. And my goal is to get it out to y'all before the holidays as well. So thank y'all for being patient on this process.
No, we understand that, Nick, and we appreciate that. And he said, just to add a little more to that, once we get those questions asked, we can bring it back to the region and say, hey, what do we want to do here? Who are the small municipalities out there that need the money, that have stuff to go? we can quickly look at those and get those identified and move forward. But we would need a discussion and action item on that.
And I think it's important to reach out also to those that didn't respond, because that doesn't mean that they don't have a need. Maybe they just didn't have the staff to respond to our outreach, right? But it's important for them to, if this is available there, hopefully there's not a matching portion by the municipality, and they're able
Right.
to take advantage of this as well.
And I don't know if you recall from our first meetings, we did identify some of those communities that we're going to reach out to again to see if they're ready to go or what we need to do to help them get ready to get these projects on there. So we're still looking at that, and we're moving forward. He said, we'll bring the other ones to the table once we get the answers from Water Development Board.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna just highlight something real quick. So these are FMEs that are currently in the plan. So FMEs that are in the plan are able to be recommended. So when we go to this next slide here, discussing, adding, actually it's this one here, discussion of status of actions to contact for preliminary engineering FMEs, additional communities. These communities, once they get it in the plan, would be part of that. So it'll feed this, this task right here will feed into that that funding source, that other option there. So it's a continuation of funding.
So just for the record, Travis is talking about agenda item number 8, guys.
Yep.
And we can discuss it now, Dave, or if you want to wait till we get to that item and just move on with the presentation, or whatever the pleasure of you guys is.
Go ahead and do it. We can go ahead and just continue on into that if you want. I just have a question. I'll ask it later. Go ahead and do your discussion, and I'll see if it might answer my question.
So Travis, I don't know if you want to go back and finish the slide on the questions that we had, and then we'll jump to item 8 that kind of flows through it.
Yeah, sure. So I kind of gone over this. We have some remaining questions that we've asked Nick, and he's reached out, and we're hoping to get those soon. But it's just trying to understand why it's not part of the cycle, what the budget is, how TWDB intends to staff and contract this work, and then what the schedule is for getting these performed.
I'll go ahead and ask it now. How is the Water Development Board prioritizing these across the state? If they're going to motivate action on them themselves, how are they prioritizing them?
And I guess we can say these have already been prioritized by TWDB, if I'm not mistaken, Travis, in the first regional flood plan that was published.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll let Nick say anything he wants to, but if he doesn't, there was some communication about this.
You're more than welcome to go out. I won't say anything.
So in the presentation that was on there, they said that that TWDB is allocating a budget for themselves, but that budget will be for each region. So they have a budget that's X number for the whole state. They're dividing that budget into regional budgets, and then they will use that budget to perform FMEs in that region. Does that answer your question?
He was asking for prioritization.
Oh, prioritization.
No, I think that's reasonable. So if there's a budget allocated to our region, then the Water Development Board determines which FMEs are going to be accomplished under that budget, or we do?
You guys will recommend a list of FMEs, and then TWDB will proceed with those FMEs as we recommend, or as you guys recommend, and prioritize them.
Okay, so there is a process from our point of view. Okay,
Yep.
all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You will have control over what is recommended and how it's prioritized.
Okay, thanks.
So as of right now, we're still in the process of contacting sponsors of existing FMPs. The FMP application process requires some more detailed preliminary engineering when submitting for the Flood Infrastructure Fund. And so we are adding several FMEs to get that preliminary engineering done for sponsors of existing FMPs. So on here, we have identified 4 of these FMPs that really match the candidates for getting this preliminary engineering done. After we've reviewing those a little more, it looks like the city of Pecos and the city of Presidio are the ones most in need of that preliminary engineering. The installation of floodgates and the development and implementation of floodplain ordinances aren't something that need that kind of 30% design requirements when you get into submitting for an FMP. So we're really targeting Pecos and Presidio. And those are communities that have already been interactive and gotten stuff submitted. While we're doing that, we're reaching out to additional communities here. Again, the list is Socorro, Ozona, Kermit, Southwest Sandhill, Sonora, Canutillo, Presidio, San Elizario, and Hudspeth, to really show them, what uh, El Paso Water and El Paso County and all of the projects that we've been submitted have gotten funding through this, and to highlight the effectiveness, and then also to highlight the grant and loan percentage that they're getting based on their AMHIs in that region. And so we've kind of prioritized them based on the number of at-risk structures in that area. So El Paso, Socorro, Socorro's second there, but they didn't have a strong response. Pecos and Alpine have already had some interaction. Same with Fort Bliss, but now we have Kermit, Ozona, Southwest Sandhill. Those are the next ones on the list with the highest number of impacted structures. So we've, begun the process of reaching out to and setting up meetings with them to figure out if they want to get stuff into this amendment.
In the last meeting, I asked if the number of structures was based on the old FEMA report or the new FEMA report for flood zones. Can you determine whether they've updated this for the new FEMA maps, or is it still old?
I believe TWDB intends to release new data, new engineering data to go along with this as part of their larger work that they do. But this is based on the 2023 regional flood plan. So the initial estimates that we've done there, because this is an amendment to that 2023 flood plan. Updates to that map and updated to the structures are still ongoing as part of the second cycle.
Okay, so it doesn't necessarily address the increased flood zones that the FEMA maps put out last year?
Not at this time.
Okay, all right. That could cause us to have a lot more structures.
Yes, I believe that's one of the tasks in the current cycle for the next flood plan.
Okay.
So in a previous meeting, there was a request by Jeff Bennett to take a look at some of the work that they had been done with the Rio Grande joint ventures. So we had a meeting with him. The goal of Rio Grande joint ventures is to sustain and restore bird habitat using primarily small rock check dams, stone gabions, and wicker dams. These are primarily in rural areas that are prime for bird habitat restoration. And while the actions are similar, namely like floodwater detention and that stuff, the goals and existing project locations don't significantly overlap. So at this time, a lot of these projects wouldn't get funding through the Regional Flood Plan or TWDB. There is the possibility of including, bird habitat and restoration activities as part of stream naturalization in some of these TWDB prioritized areas as part of future FMPs. So it's something to consider for future cooperation, but as of right now, Rio Grande Joint Ventures projects would not qualify for funding at this time. We have identified some FMSs and some FMEs in that area that could, have some future impacts and have some future cooperation. especially sediment control. Sediment control can happen really high up in the watershed. So there is a potential for that. These small rock check dams could, collect stuff up in the watershed, but the areas that we'd be targeting um, for sediment control would have to correspond to habitats for birds. And so that's something to keep in mind going forward. Naturalization is good and does lead to a more resilient upstream area.
Is Jeff in the call?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to ask him if he wanted any comments, but if he's not in the call, okay, go ahead. I guess we're on, is that finished number 9 then? On the agenda?
Yes, that was number 9.
Okay.
This is Philip Boyd. I'm Jeff's alternate. He
Oh, okay.
he is out, I think, at a doctor's appointment today. So, but I can just chime in a little, not as thoroughly as Jeff could. But I know that a lot of these projects, the foundation I work for, Dixon Water Foundation, we're focused on watershed health, and we partner a lot with the joint venture on a lot of these projects, and we look at it from the angle of it does promote bird habitat, potentially with kind of in the riparian corridors, sort of restoring some of the functionality there and maybe encouraging some of the riparian vegetation growth and maybe some of the hydrology components that could lead to bird habitat, like springs and pools and all how that all contributes. But we have ranches above and below the town of Marfa, and we're working in both stretches. And so we're kind of looking at it not just from the bird habitat standpoint, but how these structures also can encourage recharge because they're slowing the water down in the channel and allowing it time to infiltrate, down in the riparian aquifer, and then also some measure of, as it was mentioned, erosion control and potentially flood control as the water slowed down and pushed out onto the floodplain by some of these structures and have more of an opportunity to absorb into the landscape as opposed to being shot through these incised channels. So we think about it as bird habitat, but also recharge and flood and sediment control as well. But I'm not sure how that, if that helps with any of the overlap or if this is sort of already decided that these projects don't overlap.
Yeah, it's another way of looking at it. It's a more holistic way of looking at like the whole watershed. Right now, the projects that TWD is focusing are specific flood control projects that specifically address 100-year annual chance events. There's been a suggested move towards smaller events, in which case, a lot of these smaller structures would produce a more noticeable impact. But none of the Rio Grande Joint Venture's current projects would qualify for funding in there. They don't necessarily provide that 100-year annual chance reduction. But it's not to say that, future projects could not or that they could not be a part of this in the area. So it's something that we're going to be discussing with communities as we talk to them. It's like, hey, while you're doing this out here, the Rio Grande Joint Venture is also interested in this area and would like to partner to get a more holistic response rather than just the traditional like build a basin, build a dam kind of response. So
okay, cool. Thanks for that and for hearing me out a little. I know Jeff just wants there to be some discussion about these structures that can help, like you said, more holistically with recharge and other facets as well. So thanks.
Yeah. We also, a question was brought up by Omar Martinez. And so there were some specific concerns that the city of El Paso had around public discourse around development, flood impacts, construction, and state funding, and the availability of that use for specific areas. And then also the ability to add new projects to this as needed. As we had said, like, the amendment was kind of that last date to get projects added, to the 2023 regional flood plan. And we'd have to wait for another amendment to get more projects added. But they still wanted to work on those. And so we discussed an issue of specifically flow path 20 and 20A west of Monticello and east of the Northwest wastewater treatment plant. That had been an area of specific interest to developers. We were able to provide information on modeling in that area that we had already completed, and that was available to developers if they were looking at, what kind of detention retention requirements they would need in that area. And we were also able to point to some FMSs and FMEs, um, specifically develop solutions to address city stormwater conveyance into Rio Grande. This FMS does cover the area of interest to the city of El Paso, and there would be, this would be submitted and would have funding through that. And then FMEs prioritizing arroyos on their likelihood of producing sediment and debris flow. This covers a variety of arroyos, including flow path 20 and 20A, as well as this developing FMPs for additional projects in the city of El Paso water stormwater management plan. These have both been submitted, and so we're waiting on TWB response through the flood infrastructure project, and these are both vehicles that could be used to develop more projects for the city, get started on some preliminary engineering on them, and then have them be submitted as FMPs later on.
Hey, Travis, Omar has a quick question. Go ahead, Omar.
It's not a question, just thanks. ACOM did an excellent job at explaining how much work has already been done towards this. It gives us everything we need to be able to answer our incoming council and any future developers that is asking, hey, why don't we go for state funding for flood mitigation in this area? You've done exactly what we needed, and we thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Appreciate that.
Gilbert, do you have any additional comments about that?
Do I have any additional comments? No, sir. I think
No,
Travis...
Saldana. Different Gilbert. I'm not sure he heard me.
Oh.
Okay.
Sorry, were you referring to me, Dave?
Yeah, I just wondered if you had any additional comments.
No, I think everything that they're like Omar said, I think ACOM's done an excellent job in doing so. So yeah, we also appreciate it.
Gisela?
No, I have no further comments. Yeah, ACOM's doing great, and they're very good at reaching out to everybody that's needed whenever issues or conversations of this source come up. So thanks for talking to the different entities, because we're all affected by this. So thank you.
Thank you, Gisela. Go ahead, Travis. I guess continue. Unless, Dave, y'all don't have any other questions?
No, go ahead.
We're just going to finish up with this slide here. These are the current FMEs that are in the regional flood plan. The top three there, 15, 34, and 35, have already been submitted to for funding for the FIF, and these next ones down here are ones that we're looking at performing as part of the cycle, potentially submitting these for that funding for TWDB to perform on their behalf. This is really where a lot of the next flood management projects are going to come from as we look at expanding that and submitting more. So this is kind of the future of where these are going. That is all.
Do me a quick favor, Travis. Go back to the one with the communities that we need to reach out to, or the ones that started with Socorro and all that. Just want to give you all a quick update. We've been coordinating with the Rio Grande Council of Governments through Annette on here, and we're trying to schedule meetings with everybody right now. If we can schedule them before the end of the year, that would be great. But if not, we're probably looking at the beginning of the year to get these coordinated and get them plugged into the plan again. So just kind of wanted to give you guys an update on that. Annette, I don't know if you have want to add to that or.
Yeah, hi Gilbert. Yes, so, yeah, we will be making contact. I know that AECom is ready to go, so it's just a matter of us coordinating the meeting. So we will start scheduling those efforts to see if we can convince these communities to participate, because there's, in the last cycle, there was a lot of hesitation. I know that they knew it was important, but with the list of things that they had to do, it seemed like this kind of fell lower on their priority list. So we'll just give a harder push to inform them of this opportunity. I know Levi has a question.
Yeah, real quick. So we need kind of their correspondence and participation by April 1st, correct?
Actually, we need it before that.
Before-
Levi, we want to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Travis, are these the ones we're trying to get in before on the April 1st amendment, or is this going to be part of the one we submit in 26?
No, these would be for the amendment, and that's why we're targeting FMEs, because
Right.
FMEs, they really have a low barrier to entry, because it's more of, hey, we've noticed some problems and we want to evaluate these problems. You don't have to do a lot of preliminary engineering or modeling or anything to say, hey, we have noticed a problem and we want to figure out what it is. So that's why it's that quick turnaround to get those before April.
So to answer your question, Levi, we need to have the coordination sooner because we
Okay.
need to have the amended plan done by April 1st to be submitted.
Okay. Now, I remember in the last planning cycle, for instance, and I hope, they participate a little bit better and communicate a little bit better this planning cycle. But like Kermit, we couldn't get them to respond all last planning cycle, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, Levi. And
Yeah.
again, so we're trying again to reach out to them to kind of get full participation from everybody that's up there and that really has a the criteria to meet the plan right now to get them in there. So as
Okay.
you can see on here, they're number 6 on the list. They've got 1,126 structures that are in harm's way. So we'll continue trying to reach out to them. If they don't respond to us again, I mean, we've tried, we've done our due diligence. So
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I was just wanting to kind of get an idea of that timeline. So thank
Yeah.
you for that.
It's going to have to happen soon and quick and get them on board. And again, they need to realize that they're not having to pay anything right now. This is part of the funding that's out there to get them on there. But thanks, Levi. And Dave, that's our presentation. So I don't know if you guys have any other particular questions or comments.
I wanted to take a look at the suspenses or the calendar, this thing. I don't know if you can see it or not. It's that teardrop thing for the second cycle of regional flood planning that was published on the Water Development Board site.
You got that, Travis? That you can share?
I'd have to
there
pull
is
it up specifically.
there's some different language on there than what we're using commonly every day. And I wanted to ask the questions. For example, 2A, which is existing condition flood risk analysis, is due in March. 2B, which is future condition flood risk analysis, due in May. Those things are on their teardrop suspense, and I just needed to ask in that language, are those being addressed?
Travis, you want to answer that or?
I'm not sure exactly what he's looking at. Give me a minute.
He's going back, I think, to the contractor, or he's got the different tasks. You know how we have the task 1, task 2, task 3.
Yeah,
task 2 gets
is
broken up into 2A, the existing conditions, and this is where we do the modeling and all that. So to answer your question, Dave, yes, we are following that and we are answering them.
okay. So as we progress on down, 3A due in June, 3BC due in July, all those things, all those suspenses will be met.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. That's all I needed to ask then. It's just a little different language than what we use in our everyday discussions. So
yeah, you need to realize that as part of this funding that's in there, we have to look at existing modeling conditions, and then we need to look at future conditions, looking at 4 different criteria on there. And I think we're looking at a 10%, a 1%, a 0.2% annual chance of flooding when it comes to looking at these. So it's quite a bit of work that needs to be done, but yes, we are addressing that, Dave.
Okay. I just, based on my question I asked earlier about the new flood plan that FEMA put out, it just seems like there's going to be a pretty significant change based on that new analysis that they did that increased the flood areas. I don't know how that will affect things down the road, but it seems to me it's going to have a pretty significant impact. So I don't know how we address that.
Oh, yes, sir. And we'll look into that, Dave. We'll
Okay.
we'll follow up with our team on there that's very familiar with the preliminary maps that are out there, and
Yeah,
we'll take that
that's
into effect.
Yeah, he just put up the eye test. I'll tell you what, I had to get a magnifying glass out when I printed this thing out to read the text. The state might be interested in putting this into 2 pages or something, so it's more readable.
Nick, go ahead. I know Nick has a comment or a question.
Yeah, just to give you an update, we are going to be updating this. And I actually was the one that was updating this. That first bit of 2024 is pretty much coming off. So it should shrink everything up and make things a lot more readable, as this is like a mile long and about an inch wide. So I understand your frustration on that, and sorry that it's not readable on a piece of paper, but we are working to get that fixed. So just want to give you an update that it is coming. The website update is coming soon.
So if y'all can
Okay.
break it up by year, I think would be good, Nick. Have
Okay, we
one
can take that.
schedule by year, and we know, hey, we're going all the way up to 2028, so there's going to be 5 different portions of the schedule on here.
I'll
It'd be a
take
lot
note of that.
easier
Thank
to
you.
read. I mean, and still have the overall one, but break out the years.
Okay, I guess we need to progress on to number 11 then. The next potential general meeting date for the flood planning group. And I think we talked about that earlier. Annette, you want to comment on that?
Yes, sorry about that. So again, we only have 4 voting members who responded. What we'll do is Isela is not available on the 17th. I've got the 3 other members who said the 17th of January was good for them. So we could offer another time on the 17th in the afternoon. So I'll get with Aaron and we'll send you all, if you guys, for those who did respond, if you wouldn't mind responding again to a new link for that week that gives a morning and an afternoon. So we can see if we can get full coverage in terms of our membership. So bear with us. We'll send out one more. For February, the same has happened. We only have, I think, 4 people as well who confirmed their availability. So Aaron will be sending out that email asking everyone to make sure that they confirm their availability so we can get those dates set.
So Annette, real quick, they are allowed a proxy, right, that can attend these meetings and vote in their place. I see Jeff has his on today, but
Yes, they can. And so if I know that not everyone has submitted a proxy to us. So if you all have not, if you can email that to Aaron, informing us who you would like to serve as your alternate, that'd be great. And so we'll if you can give us their name and their email address, that way we can contact them as well in case you're not available and we can reach out to them.
Okay, please respond to the inquiry when you get it so we can get this locked in for January and February.
So it's TBD in terms of the date for January, but we'll get this squared away hopefully by maybe tomorrow or the first of next week.
So under any circumstances, we're going to have a meeting the week that ends on the 17th, right?
I think that was the time frame that we looked at that was most optimal.
Okay, all right. So we'll look forward to that week at least. Maybe the afternoon of the 17th if we can all do that.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna,
This is
go ahead.
Sal. I just wanna say now, because on the month of January, I'm going to be out of reach. So I may
Okay.
not be able to respond, but I will not also be able to attend.
Okay, and Sal, do you have someone that you would think of that you would like to serve as your proxy?
You know what? I could talk to my project manager here at the company, and he might
Okay.
be interested, but I'd have to see his times.
Okay, okay. Yes, and we can meet with him and beforehand and kind of give him a one-on-one in case he has any questions of us in terms of the process.
Sure, sure. He is a civil engineer as well, so he understands these dynamics.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know.
All right.
And that you told, go ahead.
One last request. I'd like to have the board consider in the next meeting nominating or opening up a voting member position for the new City of El Paso's floodplain administrator. It's too important of a role. There's too many facilities or buildings that are being considered as part of the flood planning process to not have coordination between this authority and the flood planning group. And so I don't know if, with something that I'm hoping we can add to the next agenda, by then I should have everything needed for it
I
to be
will
able to justify it.
I will verify that the bylaws, because I think it could be interpreted a few ways, but it seems as if the board can actually nominate a new position. So, and Nick, I'll get with you on this request, because it seems as if maybe we could put this on the agenda saying that the board wants this position and then that person can come on board, or if not, then we have to do the open process where we're putting it out for at least 30 days for consideration. So so I'll get back with you on that, Omar, to let you know which path we have to take.
Thank you.
This is Sal Masood again. I want to also second that, and I encourage it highly, because we do not have a representative from the flood-based administrator at the city. That is important that we do add that.
And I think maybe what we could do is, as a backup, is like Sal, as an example, if you know you're not going to be here in January, maybe we can ask. And Omar, I'm sorry, what is the person's name for the administrator?
That person hasn't been designated yet.
Okay.
So I'll be sure to ask our planning team to let them know. But everybody's out now.
So let's just say that if we have that name sooner than later, maybe Sal would want to appoint that floodplain administrator as his proxy, so that way we can have that person on the meeting in January if we have to go the other route where we're posting it for 30 days and we don't make them wait.
That works. Thank you.
Well, if that's okay with Sal.
Yes, I will reach out. I think if they don't have an official designation, but I'm suspecting it would be Oscar Villalobos. He's been acting like that lately. So I'll reach out to Philip and ask who is going to be appointed that. And then once I know, I will personally ask him to be my proxy for January. And then, but we definitely need a separate appointment for that position.
Yeah. So we can work towards that. Okay, folks, I'm going to let myself off the so thank you, everyone. Happy holidays. And Dave and Aaron will finish it off. Thank you.
Thanks, Annette.
I have a question. So on that, on Oscar Villalobos being Sal's proxy. So Sal's representing the developer community, and Oscar would be representing the city's developer floodplain administrator. So will that be seen as a conflict of interest? That would be my only concern. So we don't want to have those type of issues. So that's something that we may need to look into.
This person can also become my proxy until we get them in.
Okay. And then they can attend all the meetings as well.
Yeah. But we really need somebody permanent, because I won't be at the city forever, and we gotta make sure that the city participates.
Yeah, and this is something that I brought up when Javier was the floodplain administrator, and then he left the city. But we didn't know how to address that. So yes, definitely we need the floodplain administrator
It'd be great
representing
if it
the
was like,
city here with us.
if it was like an ex officio member, if that lets us get away with it. We love Javier, want to keep him here, but
Yeah.
we sort of need that floodplain administrator role. And it's come up many, many times.
Right, and I remember I spoke to Javier and we had spoken to Annette, but it was, since Javier was voted in, we couldn't just make that replacement, so. But it's important to have that position represented here, and not only as, and as a voting member, it's important. But we'll see, yeah, definitely we need him here.
I agree.
Omar and
you.
Steve, do you have any other comments before we close?
No, that's it. Thank you very much for chairing.
Oh, no problem. Happy to help. Okay, I think we're all finished. Can we get a motion to adjourn, please?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, thanks, Sal. Who was second?
Levi.
Okay, Levi. So Sal, motion, Levi, second. Any discussion? Okay, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
you all.
everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Thank you.
holidays.
Happy holidays to
Bye.
all of you.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Good
so
work.
much.
Thanks.
Yes. Very well done.